Saul and Jonathan, beloved and cherished, swifter than eagles, stronger than lions. Now listen to this. An evil spirit from the Lord rushed upon Saul, and he raved within his house. Both descriptions refer to the same man in the same book. How does Israel's tall, handsome, divinely chosen king become a raving madman? And the answer might have less to do with Saul and more to do with the people who wrote his story. To understand how Saul's story got rewritten, we first need to see how it begins, and it begins not once, but 3 times. The Bible preserves 3 distinct accounts of how Saul became king. In 1 Samuel 9, the prophet Samuel privately anoints Saul. Anointing means consecration, dedicating a person to God through the ritual application of oil. This was standard practice across the ancient Near East, not unique to Israel. In 1 Samuel 10, a completely different scene. Saul is selected by public lottery before the assembled tribes, a communal, divinely guided process. Then in 1 Samuel 11, a third version, Saul defeats the Ammonites in battle, and the people acclaim him king on the strength of military victory. 3 different mechanisms, 3 different settings, 3 different legitimation models. Are these complementary stages in one smooth story? Or are they competing traditions from different source documents preserved side by side? This mirrors what scholars call the documentary hypothesis, the recognition that biblical texts often weave together multiple voices rather than presenting a single unified account. Right? The themes are visible if you know where to look. Now picture early Saul. He stands a head taller than anyone in Israel, handsome, charismatic. The Spirit of the Lord comes upon him, and he prophesies ecstatically. Ecstatic prophecy, raving, dancing, trance-like states, was a recognized mode of divine communication across the ancient Near East. When it happens to Saul, the people marvel. Is Saul among the prophets? He rallies his tribe of Benjamin, drives back the Philistines, wins popular devotion. Even Samuel, who resented the very idea of monarchy, comes around. This is a success story. A divinely empowered warrior king delivering his people from their enemies. Hold that image, because everything changes in 1 Samuel 16 when a shepherd boy from Bethlehem enters the narrative. The moment David appears, the narrative tone towards Saul reverses. This is the video's central insight, so pay attention. The sources describing David almost certainly come from circles loyal to the house of David. These are pro-Davidic editors shaping the material. And here's what they do. Saul's ecstatic prophecy, previously a sign of divine favor, gets recast as madness. Right? The phrase, the Spirit of the Lord came upon Saul, becomes an evil spirit from the Lord rushed upon Saul. Same phenomenon, same behavior, opposite interpretation. The text didn't change what Saul did, it changed what he meant. That's not theology, that's editorial control. The editorial bias becomes even clearer when you examine Saul's 2 so-called fatal sins. First, the unauthorized sacrifice. In 1 Samuel 13, Saul's troops are deserting, the Philistines are massing. Samuel promised to come perform the sacrifice, but he's late. Saul performs it himself. Samuel arrives and declares that God will end Saul's dynasty for this act. Harsh. But David later performs sacrifices at multiple points in the narrative, and nothing happens. No punishment, no prophetic condemnation, no consequences. Second, the incomplete harem. Harem means total destruction, the devotion of enemies and their possessions to God through complete annihilation, a sacred ban. In 1 Samuel 15, Saul defeats the Amalekites but spares King Agag and the best livestock. Samuel announces the kingship is torn from Saul forever. Devastating. But compare this to David. David commits adultery with Bathsheba and arranges the murder of her husband Uriah. The punishment? Personal consequences, yes. But David's dynasty endures forever through the Davidic covenant. Saul loses everything for sparing a king. David keeps everything after murder. Is this consistent theology, or is it a narrative constructed to justify a political transition? From here, Saul spirals: depression, paranoia, an obsessive hunt for David, the massacre of 85 priests at Nob. And through it all, the narrative frames David as the innocent victim who never raises his hand against the Lord's anointed. That framing is apologetics, not apologizing, but making a defense. Pro-Davidic apologetics clears David of any complicity in Saul's destruction. If the narrative is shaped by political loyalty, how do we read it? Not by dismissing it, but by reading against the grain. Return to the Song of the Bow. David's public lament for Saul preserves genuine popular admiration, but it also serves David politically, distancing him from Saul's death at the exact moment he stands to benefit from it. One passage, multiple functions. Both are true simultaneously. Here's a framework you can apply to any ancient text. 3 questions. First, who is telling this story? Identify the source community and their loyalties. Second, what do they need the audience to believe? Identify the narrative's political or theological purpose. Third, where do cracks in the narrative reveal a different perspective? Look for preserved counter-narratives, contradictions, and double standards. If these 3 questions transform you from a passive reader into an active analyst of ancient literature applied to Saul, pro-Davidic sources tell the story. They need you to believe David's rise was legitimate and Saul's fall was deserved. The cracks, the triple appointment, the sacrifice double standard, the Song of the Bow. Saul may have been a tragic figure, but the real tragedy might be that we'll never fully know his story because the people who won got to write it